better. Marta, you up for reading?
Sure.
Okay, this will come up. Wow.
Oh,
We are continuing in the chapter on our real work in effort and grace on page 101. In this chapter, Darwin introduces Baba's work of opening our hearts to the divinely human qualities within and expressing them in our day-to-day life. How do we access the divinely human qualities, such as patience, generosity, humor, empathy, courage, enthusiasm, and honesty, from within the deeper recesses of our heart and live from there? How do we distinguish these qualities from the lower currents of the emotions, desires, and impulses that are clamoring to be expressed? This is the inner battle we struggle with, the competing forces of our nature. We have spent lifetimes habituated to giving in to the lower currents, and now we are having to make heroic efforts to transmute these into the loving currents of a higher nature. Here's a quote written by Money, Baba's sister, in her own handwriting. I'm not sure if these are her words, but clearly they are her sentiments. Why were the saints saints? Because they were cheerful when it was difficult to be cheerful, patient when it was difficult to be patient, and because they pushed when they wanted to stand still and kept silent when they wanted to talk, and were agreeable when they wanted to be disagreeable. That was all. It was quite simple and always will be. It is clear from these words that great efforts must be made, but thankfully this ongoing struggle gives our life meaning, and we have the satisfaction of gradually making progress over the years in accessing the divinely human qualities that flow from Baba. Behind the scenes, he provides the inspiration and insight to persevere in this real work. One of the illusions we have to rise above is equating good or virtue with love. Although our standards of good and bad, or virtue and vice, that we inherited from our conditioning, or sanskaras, have been helpful guides along the way, we have to eventually access Baba's love, which originates from beyond the sanskaras. That is, this love, which starts out pure, must express itself through our sanskaras, and in the process often gets distorted and diminished. Virgo Hugo, the French novelist, once wrote, "Virtue, as in the case of vice, is a calculated action, but love is not calculated. It wells up in the heart and expresses itself spontaneously." Baba has made it clear that good is not the goal. Once, in one of my early trips to India, Eric said to me, "The accumulation of virtue is not the goal." His words were life-changing. How do we open ourselves to this higher love? What ways have worked for you? Have you seen in your own life the distinction between good and love? Have you noticed that with good and virtue, there are always strings attached? What is required is to become more and more a vehicle for the free and spontaneous flow of love, with no calculations or selfish ulterior motives.
Thank you. You know, just to add to that, Darwin used to say, don't think of yourself so much as a base of operations. Think of yourself as a vehicle. In fact, he used the word, think of yourself as a conduit. And Baba says that we are to be a vehicle through which the divinely human qualities can be expressed. Baba says that we are divine in essence, and this is like an entirely new paradigm. So Darwin used to say that our real work is to clear away all the obstructions, and so that there's very little in us that impedes this flow from within. And when I think about it, this divine in us has to pass through all of these melodramas and everything inside of us before it reaches others, and by then it loses a lot of its pristine beauty. So, I found it with the Mandali that in their very unassuming natural way, they emanated that divine flow. So the one of the big challenges is how do we become vehicles for the divine in us? And of course, artists, musicians, actors, and writers, they all are preoccupied with this challenge. How to get that music through, how to get the acting so that it comes from beyond us into us. In fact, I'm going to put Rada on the spot here. She, being an actress, I don't know, this is not quite fair, but you're an actress, and you have to perform, you have to get yourself in a state so that this character is coming through you. Anything you can describe about that?
Well, I can describe, I think I might have told this story before, but it's my favorite moment in the theater. I'm the type of actor that wants to communicate what I believe. So anytime I would get a role that had a spiritual, every role has a spiritual center, but those were particularly the parts that I wanted to play. But I was performing in a play at the Mark Taper in LA called Talking With, and it was monologues that were done by 10 different women. And I played a baton twirler who saw God. And I actually helped discover this piece of writing in Louisville. And I really felt Baba so much during the whole process. And so I was doing this with an amazing group of women. But there was one night when, and standing, great reviews, standing ovations, the audience was always very, very receptive. But there was one day where when I came to the theater, everybody in the dressing room had something really hard that day, really hard. Lost an option on a house, been in an accident. And, everyone was in a bad mood. So I tended to do my yoga and my salutation to the sun to kind of center myself. And then you listen to what's going on in the green room while you're doing that. And the play started, I think I ended act one, but nobody was laughing. Now, this is a play where the audience was partially lit and you're talking with the audience. Nobody was responding to this amazing actress who always started our show. And it continued. There was nothing was going on out there, and that's very scary. And so I decided to go and stand in the backstage area while the actress performed her piece right before I came on, because I thought I better feel what this feels like. And I just asked Baba to help me. And I was just, it was, your ego as an actor, so wants to be loved. You know, to get up in front of a bunch of people and be booed or not, you know, not responded to is, you know, it defeats your whole reason why you like doing it. And so I just all of a sudden, I realized that everybody in that theater had had a really, really hard day. It wasn't just us, it was everybody. And I started to see all of these people through Baba's eyes. And I felt this incredible love for the audience. I stopped worrying about myself and started thinking about the love for that audience. And I walked out onto the stage, and I don't know how long I was out there, maybe 30 seconds. It seemed like a really long time, but I didn't say anything. I just felt Baba's love, and I slowly looked across the audience and just thought how much I loved them, that they'd come to the theater on a day when they'd had a bad day. And then I started to speak as my character, who was very quirky, and she had a strong Southern accent. You know, hi, I'm April March. Got those words out, and the audience burst into laughter. And they were totally with us for the whole rest of the play. But what Baba taught me in that moment was the power of love, that love feeds the beauty. It feeds the beauty. And later in life, when I loved teaching children, you know, in those moments when you're watching the children sing and the parents filled with love, many times I would just be at the keyboard with a few tears in my eyes, because what a great job. What a great job to get out of the way and try to create a space for love.
Beautiful. Perfect description of example of what Darwin's talking about in this chapter. And let's see, so Jacima, if you can put up we'll continue where we left off, but thank you, that was just perfect. Let's see. How about Ben? Are you around, Ben?
I am. I think I'm unmuted, ready to go.
Okay, good.
Attracting the divine qualities. The divine qualities of truth, love, purity, and beauty are our own potential. We are capable of becoming conduits of these qualities, and we can and should attempt to be aware of them continuously. In order to do that, however, we have to purify our hearts, because the heart is the instrument of our probing or penetrating. As we purify the heart, we create a vacuum that attracts the divine qualities. They are there already, resident in the heart, but they do not automatically flow through. One has to clear the way for them, to them. And even more significant, as we do this, we are creating conditions that please God, and He invites us to merge with Him. If our highest value is to penetrate to reality, then we will seek effective ways to deal with the veils that keep us from it. We will explore why we have certain thoughts, concepts, misconceptions, and unexamined conclusions. It is a matter of getting behind the thoughts to see what they are founded on, seeing through them, and thus becoming free of compulsions at the root level. We open up to the master within and invite his divine impressions to filter in through the heart center. Doing this contributes to a pure in heart state. We have to do this if we want to put an end to the impelling forces that make us incarnate again and again. That is why the master encourages us to direct our energies toward loving him, loving God. This has a purifying effect on the heart, on our consciousness.
Beautiful. Well, beautifully read
Thank you.
with comprehension. Well, anyone want to say anything to that? I mean, this is kind of coming toward the end of this book where, you know, we're embodying, being open and receptive to the divine qualities. Anybody have anything to share in that respect? So we've got Tony, you do a bit of acting yourself. Get any way you can kind of give us a little of the preparation you have to do before you go out on stage.
I was thinking all about that when I was listening. I just tuned in. I was just listening to Radha and enjoying that very much. But back in '82, I had quit a job and I worked every day for 2 months to find another job. And I couldn't get a job that I liked, but I did get a 3-month contract at the UN, word processing. There's a great story behind that, but that's not this. But that was coming to an end, and I knew they were going to keep maybe 2 or 3 of the 30 people they hired for that General Assembly session. And but they wouldn't sell you. And everyone was saying, oh, they're going to pick you. They're going to pick you. I said, no, I can't get it. And Baba came as a taxi driver and drove me home, but that's another story. But I said, you know, I just need to know if I have to prepare a resume. She said, well, you better prepare your resume, because she wasn't going to tell me. And I got out of the UN, and if anyone remembers Red Skelton and his character Clem Diddlehopper, well, I stood on the corner of 42nd Street and First Avenue, and I imagined myself as Clem Diddlehopper. I said, Baba, I don't know what to do. Guide my feet. Let me know. You know, if I have your guidance, I can cooperate with it. If I know what you want me to do, that's where I look. So I said, Baba, guide my feet. I'll follow them. And I started. Clem Diddlehopper had these big shoes, these big red shoes. And I went, and I walked, and I got to the corner, and I looked down at my feet, and they turned. So I crossed the street. I went that way. And I did this for half an hour. And I wound up on a block I'd never been at. It was on Madison Avenue, like 38th Street, I think. And my feet stopped and turned around and faced this building. No idea what it was, except the first floor had a sheer kind of stone facade, unlike the rest of the building. But it didn't say what it was. It was now about 6:30. But that's where I was led. I walked up to the front door. I pulled, it was open. There's no one there. I walked down the hallway, and at the far end on my left, there was a fellow behind a desk in an office. I said, excuse me, but what is this place? And he said, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He said, do you want to audition? And I said, okay. That's where Baba led me. So he said, take this book, pick one of the monologues, just go around the corner. There's a bench, sit there. When you're ready, come back in and I'll hear your audition. And I have to memorize it. No, just learn it and you can read it. Okay. So I came back in. I read the piece. I performed the piece. He looked at me and he said, that was pretty good. You're accepted. And he gave me a whole stack of papers to tuition help. But I had to go at night because I really needed this job at the UN. Oh, they kept me. I found out later they kept me. The next day I found out they were keeping me. So here's a big conflict. Baba wanted me at the UN and he wanted me to act. I couldn't do it. It conflicted with the job hours. But all the while I knew this is what Baba had directed me to. I tried a few things, 20 years passed, 15 years, and things are getting so unpleasant at the UN, office politics, not politics, and I'm saying, Baba, this can't be what you want me to do. What do you want me to do with my life? That was the question I'd asked earlier. And he said, haven't we gone over this? So I was really scared, and I psyched myself up for about a year. And I finally put together a monologue, put it together from Inherit the Wind. And I was at some open mic type thing. People came, performed, and it was for actors that night. And I came up and I did my monologue, and all these actors came up to me and wanted to know where I was working, what I was in, because they just assumed I was a professional actor. So that's the first thing. Then actually, I maybe shouldn't have even told that one, but I'll just briefly touch on the other two. Of all of my roles, the two best, first was a friend was directing Shakespeare in Hollywood by Ken Ludwig. And something about it appealed to me. And I love Shakespeare. It's a comedy based on a Midsummer Night's Dream. And I bought the book and I read it. And the main character is Max Reinhardt. Well, Max Reinhardt was a big figure in Norina's life and in the Baba activity at that time in their 30s, early 30s. And but he was sort of a funny Max Reinhardt. Anyway, I auditioned. I got the role. Above opposition, I got the role. And half the time I was in scenes, and the other half I was talking to the audience. And the flow of love with that audience was just extraordinary, extraordinary. The play ended. I got a retinal detachment. I was out of commission for about a year. Thought I'd never act again. And on the 4th anniversary of my coming to Baba, to the 40th, 81, 91, 30th anniversary, I guess it was, or 40th. I was asked if I would audition for a very similar role on a version of Phantom of the Opera, not the famous one. And I got to play, and in this one, it's like the book, the author is the main character. And it was the same thing where I was in scenes and then I would talk to the audience. I'd sit in the audience. And every time before I went out, this is more to the point of what Jeff was asking, I'd go through Baba's prayers internally. And I would say, Bob, and I would go through his advice to actors in The Perfect Master. One was, before you go on stage, think, I can and will express this part thoroughly. And another was, think, I am the greatest actor in the world. Baba said, what's the harm if there's no ego in it? And then I would, and I would open the play and I close the play. And I'm sitting under a cloak on a bare stage, not visible. And then I appear from out of this cloak. And all the time under the cloak, I'm saying, Baba, you have to perform through, you have to do this through me. What can I give this audience? I can't. It has to be you through me. And it was. And from the very beginning, I think when there was previews and the opening night, someone came back the next week and she said, we were here a week ago and my husband and I, and we were having a really horrible time with something. And everything looked really miserable, looked really bad. And then we saw you on stage and everything, the whole problem just lifted. And you actually have changed our lives. Well, obviously I couldn't have changed anybody's life, but I said, Baba, you have to do this. And so that's how the thing went. It ran off Broadway for about 7 months, I think. And then Baba pulled the rug out from under it, but that's a different thing. So you reminded me of both of those things with your story. Yes.
No, it's, yeah, you get down on your knees, and especially in performances, and you pray, Baba, please, please help. Hey, let's go on to the next section, Mayor Baba's Divine Outpouring. How about Mayor Prasad from Seattle? I mean, he's got a Seattle accent, and if we can understand him.
All right, let's try it. Meher Baba's divine outpouring. In Meher Baba's presence, one could always sense the tremendous dynamic power of the infinite radiating from him. Meher Baba's work includes the outpouring of this divine radiation, which is automatic in helping everyone in creation. It is the flow of divine grace, and as it flows, it works out all our problems. When we Western men went to India in 1954, I thought at first that Meher Baba would give us wonderful discourses, which he did. But it was not long before I discovered that what was most significant was simply being in his presence. Baba's stupendous love radiation was effortlessly working on everyone, affecting us in many, many ways within, affecting our feelings, our thoughts, our lightheartedness, and our insight.
Give me a call if you. Okay.
His divine love especially made an incomparable impact because divine love awakens the heart and permits love to flow. Through intuition and insight, we can perceive Baba's grace as a very powerful radiating light that banishes our veils of ignorance and replaces them with truth. In his infinite oceanic divine love radiation, we lose track of the little streams of our sanskaric currents. In their place, we experience a steady, sustained flow of truth, love, purity, and beauty. We are meant to experience this coming from Him within us, not in a sporadic or passing way, but continuously.
Yeah, beautiful. Anyone to share anything that they
Hey,
how this
Jeff,
happened to them? Yes.
we haven't heard from the other actor on the screen here, which is Tina. Maybe Tina would like to tell us about her preparation or some aspect of being an actress, because I know that's been her thing.
No, um, I have a lot of difficult people. By the way, there's something wrong with my computer, so I'm in a cloud. Um, did you have a question, Ron?
Can you get closer to be a little louder?
Yeah, I can
That's
try.
better. That's better.
Um, so I did a movie called Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg, and there was just a lot of fighting on the set, a lot of competition, and and it wasn't a pleasant experience. I mean, this one woman, she would throw her hands back and slap me in the face. I don't know, because I was standing behind her. Um, I don't know what to say on a spiritual level. Um, she would single me out, and she would she would say things like, "Do you mind having such a small part? If you had known how small your part was going to be, would you have even accepted it?" I was like, "Yeah, it's a major movie." But I don't know if that answers your question.
But it probably made very difficult time doing your actual part with that type of, you know, negativity floating around you, swirling around.
Yes, but the director was wonderful. I loved him.
Yeah.
He's dead now, but he was just a real sensitive, sweet guy. and I just really appreciated his energy. And so, you know, I, I once complained to him about her, and he was like, just try to get along with her. Just try to get along, and don't do anything that would upset her. Well, she would come up to me, and she would just say them. I'm like she once said, "I'm having a party. I'm going to invite this person, this person, this person, but not you."
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, well,
Lovely
it
stuff.
was a challenge.
Well, I
It
can't
was,
wait to get into acting.
yeah.
Yeah.
There
Hey,
are those
let's see.
people.
Let's see if let's see if there's someone that can share a different aspect of this. You know, of some experience of being eclipsed by your normal kind of small self, your normal set of sanskars, and of the divine comes through you. Uh, anyone can share that. Even intuitions that come. Rada, go ahead.
Sorry to take up so much time, but I I find calling on Baba. I recently went through an experience um, with my family that was very painful for me, and there was such a misunderstanding in a way that I had never ever experienced in my life, and I had to withdraw because I didn't know what to do. And in that withdrawing, I dug more deeply into Baba. It's when I started to read Effort and Grace, actually. And it was really helpful to me. And then I just kept going, I don't know how to resolve this. I'm doing everything I can. I expressed my love, my willingness, but I, I can't do anymore. So last week, after almost 6 months of this, I thought, you know what? I'm going to just start singing Baba's name all the time. I'd already reached a place of peace with Baba and in myself, and knew what I needed to nurture myself, and felt grounded in that. And so I went on Baba Zoom with Betty, and I learned the 7 names of God, which I didn't know. And I sang it with Betty on Tuesday morning. And then I sang that on that day. I sang it. I continued to sing it. I think I sang it for about 3 hours. And then I got a text that said, come, talk, we're ready. And it was the most beautiful, loving, forgiving thing. It was like Baba melted it. He melted it all. And it just, it was such a gift, really, to realize how real that is, that entering into Baba's love with everything, especially those things that you don't understand why they happen, you can't control. So thank you, Darwin Shaw. Thank you, Jeff, because I feel like this book really, really helped me.
Beautiful. Wow. Very touching. Hey, I don't know if Jay Seema is here, so I'll call on Janet from Boulder.
Hi. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is up the right alley, but it's my experience. My daughter, you know, went with another man, and she had a son, and and it was upsetting to me. But I maintained my relationship with my daughter through this. But this other guy, I was very resentful of, and I mean, it was a grin and bear it situation. I truly was. I tried to be polite, and anyway, they moved in together this last fall, and literally a Baba miracle happened. It just disappeared. My resentment, my anger, it just all just vanished. I had been giving it to Baba for 2 years, maybe more like 3, to be honest with you. And kept going, but it was just there as a knot, and then all of a sudden it was just dissolved. And what is so nice for me about that experience is that it was clear that I didn't do anything. It was Baba's grace, because yeah, I mean, it just happened. There was no trying involved. It came through Baba. And so yeah, it was a real learning for me that Baba is guiding me and with me, and that purity eventually after I fought it tooth and nail inside, let me tell you, I have a friend that was saying to me, Janet, you have got to get over that. And I'm like, no, I'm mad. No, not really. I wasn't that bad, but I'm telling you that my resentment and anger, and it was truly an experience of not being right. I thought I was right about something, and I'm not. And Baba just gently walked me out of that, like what we've been saying in this, walked me out of that room and into another room. And I have said to my daughter, I've said, this guy's name is Steve. I said, Steve has made my heart grow bigger. He's taught me a lesson that increased the size of my heart, because I had, So anyway, that's my little story, my little Baba story.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wonderful. But all the efforts that you made in the previous years are all helpful. It allows Baba to come in and
Yeah.
make a change. You've given him permission. That's what I would say. Hey, let's go on to the next. Wait, there are a couple of hands there. Yeah.
Tina?
Yeah. Well, my sister recently wrote me an email, and she really, like they say in the program, took my inventory. And she called me a narcissistic personality. And she just says, put on your big girl pants and tell the truth. And, you know, I didn't engage. I I gave it to Baba, and I just didn't answer any of these accusations. She said nobody believed me and I was lying. And anyway, I told her I loved her, and I was, if I could ever help her, I was ready and willing. And that's the blessing that Baba gave me.
Beautiful. These are these divine qualities, of forgiveness and whatever come through
I,
and over over overlap our behavior. Yeah.
I think I got the mother load of difficult family members.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Virginia.
I was just thinking on the phrase in the reading, and I don't have it in front of me to be able to read it exactly, but Baba's divine light shining through us. And I've had this image for years of, there's the universe with all the stars and all of us tiny little beings, and then the greater stars, and then the light, and all the light leading to the light in the center, being Baba, being the sun, being God. And I don't know where I'm going with that, except that when I take time to meditate, which I don't do very often anymore, that's usually the focus of the meditation, is that sunlight love at the center, and then that permeating through everything and through me and through all of us, and all of everything in creation. And I had a moment, I think those God light moments do flow through sometimes through us, sometimes through other ones that we're having interactions with. And recently I was speaking with a patient in the hospital who will probably be dying fairly soon. And we were talking about some travels he'd had in Nepal. And it was just like this timeless moment. We were there to talk about a medical issue, but that clearly wasn't about what Baba was there for. And I saw that light just shining from him and shining in the room and shining everywhere as he was speaking about the spiritual experiences he's had in his life. And I guess that what that connects for to me is, just those are those moments of grace that we see that divine love and light coming through, and they take us out of like the ego, single moment that we're in.
Yeah. Very descriptive. And I like the image of the sunlight that landing on the deeper part of our heart. It's like getting in a winter, kind of getting into a place where the sun is, coming directly. And you feel that warmth. Okay.
Van.
So I had an experience last Tuesday that I am still processing it. And I've told it 2 different times, and I still can't believe it. So I'm going to jump in here. And for those of you who know me and those of you who don't, I came to Baba 10 years ago, and I came without a consciousness at all. I went to India with my wife, Terry, here, mainly to be her partner to watch her spiritual journey. And as many Baba lovers can talk about, he stole my heart. All of a sudden, 2 days later, I wasn't the same person who walked out of that cab. And I have spent a year, the last decade, trying to understand my relationship with Baba, because I was an agnostic at best. And I always need to try and understand something, wrap my brain around it. And I have been a devoted person who comes to Baba Zoom a lot, because it has been my boot camp, because it has allowed me to listen and hear stories of how Baba is in people's lives, just like we're hearing tonight about how we give things over, and not in our own time, but in time, things work out in a way that we can only marvel at. So speaking of agnostics, I've been an agnostic about psychics and fortune tellers until last Tuesday. And last Tuesday, at approximately 11:16 in the morning LA time, I had planned my company's party with 120 people. So it was going to be a big thing. And one of the many kinds of vendors I had brought on was a psychic, because I thought it would be fun and great at a party. So I sat down with her before a lot of the people came so I could get a reading. And again, I had no expectations about it at all. And she did some broad stroke comments about I'm creative, I'm intelligent, I'm independent, all that kind of stuff. But then she said, I've been married only once, and that's true. And then she said, and I have one child, and then she referred to my child as a she, which was true until a few years ago when my kid became non-binary, but she said I was married and had one child, and that was absolutely correct, and not any way would she know that information. So I'm sitting there and I'm breathing in, and she's talking about other things, and then she stops and she says, and I see Mayor Baba all around you.
Wow.
I tell this story and I tears come to my eyes because I've heard people tell stories about Baba coming to them in dreams or in their visuals and talking to them. And I've had major FOMO with all of that, but I keep coming back and I keep having my heart open, not knowing what proof I need to have until Tuesday. And I don't even know what it means, Jeff. I tried calling you about it because I needed to ask, what does it mean? But I sat down with no expectations. And I know Baba has been known to say, don't go to psychics. And this woman said to me later on that a lot of times you'll get this kind of information be sent to somebody who has also got their own spiritual bent. And she's a follower of Guru Mai and some other people. So she saw it totally natural that she was a vehicle of a messenger. But she said, Mayor Baba is all around you. And I just, if it could happen to me, y'all.
It can happen to any of us, huh?
This is Marion. May I make one comment? This is Marion. Oh. Oh. Is it all right?
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for Diane telling it again. It is a precious story, and I'd heard it, and I really enjoyed it again. I just want to make one comment because Mayor Baba did say, don't go to psychics who are egotistical and so forth. But he said, where they're a mystic, yes, there are mystics, and they have that ability. So this woman sounded like a mystic, not a psychic. Yes, so I just wanted to say that, and that you were led there and guided there. That story is so amazing. It travels to me also. It's traveling around. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to tell it because I know each person has had their own or will have their own. But the idea, like the left brain in me wants, is how can God have his nazar on all of us, all billions of us? And that's my, earthly plane brain trying to wrap around something that is incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Yes, she was a mystic. Yes.
And Darwin said repeatedly that Bob is around all of us. He's around everyone. It's not like it just happened. It's there all the time. It's just a matter of whether we're able to tune into that fact. Like I say, on an overcast day, we say the sun isn't out. But it's there. It's out, and we are like surrounded in the greatest place. We are looked at. Everyone is looked after so beautifully, but it's hard to be aware of that fact. I mean, Erich used to say, just kid yourself that Baba's with you. Because eventually that kidding you'll find that what you were kidding about was in fact true all along. So kid yourself about it. Okay. Beautiful. I'm glad you didn't get me on the phone because I'm hearing it here for the first time. So it's beautiful. And it comes out right here for all of us. Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Jeff, could you, I feel like this is a bit of a cheap story, but can you like restate what you were looking for? What kind of stories or comments you were looking for?
Oh, just how we access the divine side of ourself, those divine qualities, and how they come through us. The struggles and challenges of trying to be receptive to that deeper part of ourself coming through into our little melodrama, you know.
Right. I had an incident that was it was actually ended up being hilarious, where the office people ended up just falling over laughing practically. And I actually put this in my interview material sometimes, and maybe on a dating website. There was a time, I just had it's called a PRM, a pressure relief meeting in a place, and I was I was so late, I couldn't help it, and let's just say I was so mad getting on there, but by the middle of it, I was laughing hard, and one of the guys made a comment that I should consider praying on being a comic. And I said I actually thought about that, because oftentimes stuff that comes into my mind, if I say it, I get a lot of laughter. What happened is one time, and this was years ago, I was in a chiropractic office, and I went up front into the front office, where I'll say the office manager's wife was there, who was I'm trying to think, I'm on 10%. The office manager, who was the doctor's wife, was there. The pseudo office manager was there, and somebody else was there. I don't remember. And they made a comment about her being, I think, disorganized. And the pseudo office manager said to me, Pete, I'm going to give you your schedule when you go to the other office, because I know you're organized, which blew me away, because I never thought of myself as being very organized. And then I stood off to the side, and I started making comments about organization, to be, kind of slick about it, since she said I was organized, to be like a teacher. And then this thought came into my mind. And I thought to myself, if I say this thought, it's going to be another time I'm fired. So I started arguing with Mayor Bob in my mind. He's like, say what's on your mind. I said, no, I don't want to. Baba said, say what's on your mind, in this masterly way. I said, Baba, I don't want to. If I do something, to get fired. It's like, Peter, say what's on your mind. I'm like, can you stop picking on me? All this stuff going back and forth, I'll make half of it up. And Mayor Baba's like, with my divine authority, I'm telling you I'm God, and I want you to say what's on your mind. No, I don't want to. Leave me be. And it went on for a couple seconds, and finally, I noticed this like Joe Pesci like personality coming through me. I held my breath, and I said, I'm an acquired taste. And when I did that, the ladies in the office almost fell off their chairs laughing, and their mouths were gaping open. It was like, if I wanted to just throw something in, I could hit it, and they'd be powerless over it. But it's happened a number of times when these phrases come in my mind, or I spontaneously say them, and it gets outrageous laughter. I don't think that's me. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. It has to be something else that's doing that. But it's happened a number of times where it's happened, and I've gotten a lot of laughter. And when it's been sincere, deep conversation, that's the same thing, because I know egoically that my way isn't going to work. So I have to ask Mayor Baba in there to do the talking. So hopefully you can get to a higher outcome. Yeah. All right, I'll pass with that. Thank you.
When you're when people aren't enjoying your company and everything, to just say, well, I'm an acquired taste. That's a very good line.
Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. I haven't forgotten that line from before. Okay.
Let's see if I could pull it off when I'm not in such a good mood. See how that would work. If you have any ideas, I'm open to it. Pass.
Rich?
Well, Diane made me think a bit about what she said, what she experienced. And because she sort of asked a question really of you, Jeff, but I think she has a very strong, you have a very strong intellect, Diane, which I really like and appreciate. I like incisive thinking, structured thinking too, but oftentimes you can't penetrate anything beyond your intellect if you're just stuck with the intellect. I think in a way, this sort of experience helps us to go beyond what we try to confirm. And I remember Adi Kairanian in his book, it stuck with me for years, but really, say in speaking to other people, he never said, I believe in Meher Baba. And we all know that's kind of bunky, you know. You can't believe in Meher Baba because he's the only thing that's real, you know. I mean, but he said, I have a conviction that the Meher Baba is the avatar. And that is the only way I've ever been able to phrase that truly honestly. It's a conviction. If you don't know Baba directly, you know, on the sixth plane or something, that's about it. But in your case, I think it really helps you to see that, yes, the subtle planes exist, you know, the Akashic world, the composite world, whatever. All these things Baba describes really exist. But Jeff is like very sober. But I keep thinking that Jeff has been through a lot of this stuff, but he's so sober in the gross plane, he doesn't have to speak of that stuff. Now, I don't know why, but me, I kind of like to get into it a little bit. I've studied Vedic astrology. And to me, Western astrology is a nothing. It's like a belief, a fantasy, a religion. But Vedic astrology, to me, describes sanskaras. And it's told me things about myself that it was the only way I could access an understanding of some of my own dilemmas and problems. But I'm glad you had that experience, Diane. Actually, I've always wanted to speak to a psychic, and I've never really been around one. But I know that several people, probably in the Baba world, have had very legitimate experiences. One other thing I wanted to add was that something I've been going through, and it does kind of correspond to all these Zoom meetings we've been having and with Darwin's book. But to be totally honest about it, I've begun to see people that I know, maybe people I don't know, but people that I know, I used to think I could somehow influence them or tell them about Baba or something. And I've had so little luck with that, almost zero. Probably is zero. And Baba says, let Baba do it, right? You know, just say his word and that's the end of it, right? So but I've begun to see others with having their own complete sanskaric deal, you know? How can I go and tell them, oh, ignore your sanskaras, man. There's Meher Baba. It's like it's a bad joke. So, but it's pleasant in a way because now I don't have to think, oh, somehow I could tell them and Baba could help them or whatever. But just like me, they see me and they get some part of my sanskaric persona and they don't see it all. But a psychic generally sees past. But I haven't had that experience. I'm glad that happened to you, Diane. I'm really glad.
Yeah. Great. Hey, well, let's go on to the next thing. Let's see if we can get to the end of this chapter. And how about Deneen? You up for reading? Let's go. I guess Deneen is not doesn't have that access, but how about Marion?
All right. The harvest is heavy.
Yeah.
I can read. I just found my microphone. I'm sorry. I
ahead.
the screen for a second, then I couldn't find my microphone and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we on page 10?
Yes, the
102, right?
Heavy. Yeah, the title is The Harvest is Heavy.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And do you want me to read one paragraph or to the end of that?
Yeah, go ahead and read that. Well, maybe you could read both of them. Read both of them, and then Marion can read the last. Go ahead, yeah.
We are heading toward a life of service. And on the spiritual path, each person has a duty to perform. Everyone who comes to Meher Baba is put to work. The same with Jesus, who said, "The harvest is heavy, but the workers are few." Now, we may not know how to serve the Master. We may wonder, how do I go about it? How will I know what to do? I think that having the attitude of willingness to rally to his cause and serve him, which is the cause for all humanity, the salvation of all humanity, is the starting point. The Master will then lead us into ways and means of serving him. In many cases, Baba would use a psychological ploy to bring out the willingness of the disciple or those who wanted to come to him. He would even ask them to do such strange and unusual things as to take off their clothes and walk through the center of the town. Many of them would say, "Oh, I couldn't do that," or they would fail the test. Others would start to take their clothes off, and Baba would say, "It's okay, you don't have to do it." They were willing to do what he asked, you see. It is the willingness that is key. Is that what you wanted me to read?
Go on to the next one, too.
Okay. Your golden opportunities for service to Meher Baba will come up. Even just loving Baba is a great service, because that love is going out, affecting the environment and counteracting at least some of the negative forces that are out there. Some may serve by talking to others about Baba. Radiating Baba's atmosphere can be part of one's work for Baba's cause. Baba would often have people around as useful tools, avenues, or channels for his work. They did not necessarily know what was happening. They were just being themselves. I recall in India in 1954, a private talk with Baba in Upper Meherbad, where we had spent most of our 3 weeks with him. This was shortly before the big 2-day meeting for about 1,000 Eastern men in Lower Meherbad. He said to me, "Try to bring the atmosphere of this place down there." Now, I could not bring it in my hands. So what did he mean? I understood that he wanted me to try to continue to hold the feeling of his atmosphere in Upper Meherbad, because he knew how it would spread out among the crowd at the meeting. In other words, to bring his atmosphere means to maintain in oneself the refined feeling of his inner atmosphere. I do not know if Baba told others the same thing, but I know that he told me explicitly, and this was confirmation to me that I was capable of having that control. It is vitally important to know that our thoughts and feelings do influence others, even if they are not outwardly expressed.
Beautiful. Yeah. Anyone say anything to that? I know, like, you can be standing in a grocery store waiting in line, and, you can just be kind of impatient and bored, or it's possible to say Baba's name inwardly. And, I once asked Marwan Jesawala, who was a real advocate for saying Baba's name. I mean, that was one of his main things. And I said, and he would say that saying Baba's name hollows you out like a termite, eating out your interior. It also keeps influences from outside from impacting you negatively. But I said, and is it also a service, to be saying Baba's name inwardly? And he said, yes, even though it doesn't seem like it's much of a service, but in unseen ways, it refines the atmosphere around you. Oh,
Tony?
Yeah.
About the influence of Baba's name. I worked for 30 years at the UN, a big chunk of that as a press officer, information officer. And there was a world conference on, I forget what the subject was. Maybe it was human rights. But I was asked to, it was a weekend event, and I was asked to cover it. And basically, I was asked not to cover the meetings, but any press conferences that were held. And as it turned out, no press conferences were held. But I had my top security pass, and there was Bush and Baker and all these big shots walking by and just like passing in front of me. And it was interesting. It was nice to see them all, but it was basically Saturday and Sunday. And by the time I got back on Sunday, it was like, so what? You know, what's the big deal? Unless I feel, Baba, I said, unless I feel your hand in this, what does this mean to me? There's nothing I can really do here. And then I had the thought, well, there is something I can do, is I can take, but before that, there were a lot of high-level meetings were taking place. The Soviet Union was having secret, not secret, but private meetings with Israel, and there all these unheard of things were happening. And as at this point, I came out, and by the elevator going down to the cafeteria area, and I stopped to see, because Shevardnadze, who was the foreign minister of the then Soviet Union, had just been in discussions with Israel. And all the reporters, it was a good, I don't know how to measure, a good across the street distance away. And I'm on a higher level above, one level a little bit higher than where they're standing. And all the reporters have their microphones, and they're asking him questions and asking him questions. And it's this big to do, and it's an event. And that's when I said, Baba, what does this mean to me? You know, this, if I don't feel your hand in it, there's nothing for me to do here. And it became real clear. Baba said, you can take my name. So silently, as I'm watching Shevardnadze with all these mics in front of him, I started saying, Meher Baba, Meher Baba, Meher Baba, as I'm watching this. And he looked up at me. It was as if he heard me. And he looked up like that. And I'm saying, Meher Baba, Meher Baba. And then he just said, okay. And he dismissed all the reporters and he walked off. And later that afternoon, it was after lunch, I guess, and I was in an area, and all these famous heads of state and leaders were passing by, and Shevardnadze was on the other side of the hall. And as he passed, he saw me and he leaned over and he waved. And then in time that passed, the Soviet Union dissolved, Georgia became independent, and he became the president of Georgia. And again, I happened to be covering the Security Council in the days when there was that little table in the middle of the horseshoe, you know, and I was at the head of that little table, that long table. And I'm telling my partner, we'd go in teams, the meeting ended, and I said, is Shevardnadze still here? Did you see him? And he said, I don't know, I think he's over there. And I turned around, and from the other side of the room, Shevardnadze saw me and he waved. Baba's name created a connection between me and Edward Shevardnadze, totally internally. I never spoke to him, but that was his name.
Wow, great. No, that's perfect illustration of the power of Baba's name. Hey, so let's go with have Marion read that last one.
Okay. Joy of serving. Okay. It's the joy of serving, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It is with that I bring joy. So the joy of serving. Meher Baba says, serving the master is a joy for the disciple, even when it means an ordeal that tries his body or mind. Service offered under conditions of discomfort or inconvenience is a test of the disciple's devotion. The more trying such service becomes, the more welcome it is for the disciple. And as he voluntarily accepts physical and mental suffering in his devoted service to the Master, he experiences the bliss of spiritual fulfillment. This is because this is the way of effacing the self, getting rid of the self. We are forgetting ourselves as we serve him. The hardships associated with such service are not suffering, but joy, because our love for the Master. Let me read that over. The hardships associated with such service are not suffering, but joy because of our love for the Master. In true love, we function at the level of the Spirit. And at the level of the Spirit, we experience only fulfillment because love is a giving, and fulfillment comes from this giving. Through love and service, we are penetrating to the level of the Spirit. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way, and the divine qualities the Master represents begins to flow through.
Beautiful, yeah. Anything that, any response to that? I'll tell you something that this used to happen. I would, I go to India every year, and I would, a lot of the times, and especially for earlier years, I would be working at Merazad, and I would get out there early before the buses came, and I would see the mandali. There were a lot of more mandali back then, and I would see them kind of like this, walking around, kind of bent over, 8:30 or 9. By like 9:30, they were a little bit more upright. By 10:30, they were like this, and then by 11 o'clock or 10:30 or 11, they were like upright, and they were there, and they received all of us. They would receive us so lovingly and everything. And then after the hours, the bus would go, and the bus would be gone, and then I would see them all just kind of walking. The Merazad would become like an ashram about 12,000 feet up in the Himalayas somewhere. It went very quiet and still, very just minimum conversations, because they were having to regenerate for the next day. All this, it was, this is what Baba says, it's an ordeal for the body and the mind. And there it was. But, all the pilgrims, all the people that came, they didn't see all of this. They saw them upright, engaged, and connecting with them, and embracing and everything like that. But all of that they did. Luckily, I was like a fly on the wall. I could see what was happening backstage, so to speak. That's the way they were, and that quote that at the beginning on the email, why the saints are saints, because they were agreeable when they didn't want to be agreeable. They were they stood still when they wanted to push, going against all their nature. But that's why that great love radiated through them, and they without all the obstruction, that divine love that's at the heart of all of us. So any last minute things? I have a song that I could play. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say something, but I'd rather hear the song. Come on, Jeff, sing the
Oh,
song.
no, you go ahead.
Well, you got a guitar in there, right?
No, I'm going to play. This is the song I'm going to play.
Well, I need about 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was looking for that line that Marion just read, and it wasn't on the screen just now, and it was the last line really hit me. So I will read it again because I have this book, because I gave it away about 2 years ago, and but I went over to the handy dandy Avatar Mayor Baba Denver Center Library, which Bob, right there below me in that square, has been running for many, many, many years, selflessly collecting books, being the ultra librarian. So if everybody could unmute right now and give him an audible round of applause for all the work he's done on our library in this town, let's do that.
Woo!
Yay, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Thank
Bob.
you. And that line that I was looking for reflects a poem I wrote in 1984 that I'd like to read. I read it at another one of these meetings in the last few weeks, so I apologize. I know Marion and Bob have probably heard this poem, but I've only read it twice since 1984. It's one of those poems that drops out of a book that you pick up after a number of years. And so, yeah, I even have the date on it, it's 1984. And to put that, connect that to what Marion read, I'll read the last line she read, and then because there's a nice segue there, and then I'll read my poem, and then I'll be done. Ready? So she read, this is the last line in that chapter. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way. I'm gonna read that one again too. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way, and the divine qualities the master represents begin to flow through. Well, here's a poem that segues out of that. 1984, third time I've read it since then. My mind is a faded map, O Mayhair, and no longer serves me. But in my quest for you, I still comb every inch of it. I have wandered, hopefully, through frozen mountains of illusion. And many have said of me, his head is in the clouds. I cannot know, O perfect one, how many times you have saved me from icy chasm, wild beast, or danger of starvation. But clinging to my map, I thought to force my way through driving snow to you, the springtide of creation, the thawer of the alpine air. Then one day, basking in your warmth, I began to give in to your smile. And looking deep into a nearby stream, I threw my map away. For you are not a map, but a whole world, my only one, which fades the memory of nothing while promising the everything of tomorrow.
Beautiful. Wow.
Thank you. That's the third time I've read that poem.
Really good.
50 years.
Just keep that in your back pocket so you can bring it out.
I'll stick it in another book and have it fall out in another 50 years.
Yeah. Oh, I mean the map of the mind, because that's it, you know.
And that's exactly what Marion read there at the end of that. I'll read that line again, just real quick, because Darwin says all of that in one sentence. Here it is. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way, and the divine qualities the master represents begin to flow through. I think that really is what this whole meeting was about in this chapter, and it's a perfect ending to that chapter. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. This is this is a song from Delia. Earlier we talked about Delia de Leon, and these words were from a letter that she wrote to Baba back in the 30s. There are a number of them. They wrote she was from England, from London. They wrote very beautiful, almost romantic letters to Baba. And the thing about these women, they were like, a lot of them were very high society, well-educated, cultured, very strong. And how did this, this very slight, man from India come in and steal the hearts of all, of these women and men. I mean, it was just something beautiful. So this is this is a song that a guy named Paul Burchard sings, and he wrote the melody using her words.
This is the real thing, beloved. This is the real thing. This is the real thing, Baba. You are the real one. Your tender look has drawn my soul and set my heart aflame with love for you always, beloved. You are the real one. This is the real thing, beloved. This is the real thing. This is the real thing, Baba. You are the real one. You have bestowed so much on me, unworthy me. My prayer shall be to do your will, beloved. You are the real one. To do your will and more to love you still, until at last I cease to be and merge within your love. So still, this is the real thing. This is the real thing. This is the real thing, beloved. You are the real one. You have bestowed so much on me, unworthy me. My prayer shall be to do your will, beloved. You are the real one. To do your will and more to love you still, until at last I cease to be and merge within your love. So still, this is the real thing. This is the real thing. This is the real thing, Baba. You are the real one. Your tender look has drawn my soul and set my heart aflame with love for you always, beloved. You are the real one. This is the real thing, beloved. This is the real thing. This is the real thing, Baba. You are the real one.
Wow. Just a beautiful tribute to Baba's love.
Jeff, what is his name, Jeff?
Paul Burchard, Birchard.
I
You
met
know,
him at the Fringe Festival in
Yeah,
Edinburgh.
do you know where we
wonderful.
get that recording or hear it? Is it on like Apple Music or?
There's an album called The Beloved with the English group.
Mhm.
He lives in Scotland now. Okay, I guess it's kind of getting late. We'll get Peter there, and then we'll have a few moments of silence. Yeah.
I was just asking if wasn't your birthday on Thursday?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I was just wondering if anybody, if the group wished you a happy birthday yet or saying happy birthday.
Yeah, I got a few.
I think we need to sing. I think we
I
need
do too. Well, I don't know. What does everybody else think? If you
Well,
haven't
Yeah.
got it on effort and grace, you haven't gotten it yet. Or
Happy birthday.
go for it.
Happy birthday to
To
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Jeff.
Jeff.
Happy
Birthday
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 to
to
you.
Oh, that.
you. And many,
Many
many
more.
more.
That's,
Hey,
that's
80 next year. 80 next year. Oh,
Wow.
when Darwin, we had a birthday for Darwin when he was 90 at one of the restaurants up in, Calabash. And, and that, during the birthday, at one point, he stood up and said, I feel very depressed and dismayed when I consider that nearly half of my life is now over. That was his 90th birthday. So I'm hoping to write that famous, great American novel, but I'm running out of time.
Take your time.
Let's have a few moments of silence. Anita, nice to see you. Jay Bob.
Hey, Baba.
Thank you all for coming and sharing. This is beautiful.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Baba.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Oh, Nasreen. Oh, good. Gotta have the
You don't want
Nasreen
to,
lead
yeah,
us in the
yeah.
beginning law.
You don't want to live without me saying Avatar Mir Baba Ki Jai, right?
Yes.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Jay.
Avatar Meher Baba
Baba
Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Avatar
Meher
Meher Baba
Baba
Ki Jai.
Ki Jai.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
I love that voice.
Thank you so much, Jay Baba. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty voice. Huh?
Okay, well, here on the East Coast, we better give these people a